What is going on, fantasy people? It is your boy John with the catch here to go ahead and run another mock draft. Today we have got a 10-man league with PPR scoring format. Super excited to hop into another one of these. Have not done a 10-man league this year so far, so definitely interested to see how this is going to go. If this is helpful to you in any way, please consider subscribing for more future content like this, and go ahead and smash that like button while you're at it. And please let me know in the comments if this is helpful, if I can make these more helpful to you, if you would rather see 8-man leagues, 10-man leagues, 12, 14, 16, 20, whatever you guys need. PPR, half PPR, standard, whatever you guys need, let me know in the comments down below. If my draft picks are awful, go ahead and torch me in the comments down below. If you like my draft picks, go ahead and let me know. Either way, I am super stoked to get this going for you all, so let's just get rolling. We've got about 35 seconds left until we start. And I will mention we did have our annual D podcast episode air last night. So go ahead and check that out after this as well. We covered the infamous AFC East. So, and next week we will be going over the NFC East, or like some may say, the NFC least, where my home team, the Washington football team, airs and may actually win a division title again this year. But regardless, let's get going with some fantasy football drafting. It's the month of August, so it is right around the corner, guys. So I will be going RB heavy. That's another thing I'd like to see, some feedback on is what kind of draft strategies do you guys want to and see through these videos as well, because I typically like to go RB heavy, but I like to draft just about every way possible as well, just for the fun of it. So seeing your big three probably about to go off the board here, I think in standard league score or standard scoring leagues, you might see Derrick Henry go before a guy like Dalvin Cook, who Dalvin Cook scores a lot of touchdowns, but little surprised to see Nick Chubb go number 3 in front of Dalvin Cook. And there we go. Dalvin Cook, number 4 overall. So I am picking from selection 9, so I'm kind of in a murky spot. A spot a little bit more favorable for a wide receiver or a tight end like Travis Kelce, as we see the first receiver of the day, Stephon Diggs, my boy, off the board out of Buffalo. Let's see what we got here. I think Jonathan Taylor's gonna, after that Quentin Nelson injury, on top of the Carson Wentz injury, I think he might be kind of, as the season draws closer, dropping to, closer to pick 10 or so. In my personal opinion, I think he's going to be moved down on a lot of draft boards. So there goes Hopkins. We got some receivers going off the board early here. So I will be targeting Zeke no longer because he just got selected. So I might surprise some people here. Now, I don't really dislike the Jonathan Taylor pick here. And I'm scared of Saquon Barkley. I'm not going to lie. I am. I'm hesitant about the injury. So I am all over Aaron Jones this year. Like that Green Bay Packers team is going to be balling. Like Aaron Jones is going to get all those touches. Not only had 9 rushing touchdowns last year, but nine's a good number. It could be worse, right? So I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, I got Aaron Jones as we see Jonathan Taylor off the board, and then I am picking right around the corner. So typically I would go RB heavy, but I think there's going to be some pretty significant value beyond the RB position here. And I'm probably just going to go ahead and take the best player available. I would probably take Najee Harris if I like whoever's drafting with me, Jeremy. I think these are 2 good picks, probably the best picks he could have made. And I would probably argue for Saquon here, but I'm going to go with the dog in Kansas City, Travis Kelce. Let's get a tight end early. Let's get that talent. And now we see Tyreek Hill off the board. and we will wait and see who goes. Looks like a pretty live draft for him. Looks like Tyler's on auto draft now, so we've lost 2 people, but should stay relatively realistic as we keep going here. Yeah, I'm seeing Saquon. There's just so much hesitancy. I do think there's a lot of value. I'm personally worried that he might miss, the first game or so, and I think we'll definitely get, a better overall, understanding of how that situation's going. Obviously as the season gets closer, but um, we're at round 15, and yeah, he goes 15 overall, so. Ranked 7 overall, and earlier, last month or so, he's ranked much higher, closer to 5. So, we'll see as the season draws closer where Saquon is starting to rank. So let's see. You got Austin Eckler off the board. So I am personally going to be targeting Edwards-Helaire as well as David Montgomery here. I think Montgomery is going to move much higher on draft boards as the season draws closer, as well as we see Devontae Adams, Antonio Gibson, Justin Jefferson off the board. Pretty typical selections here. Still got the number 1 QB on the board with Patrick Mahomes. And I'm not sure if we'll see him selected in the top 25 because this is a 10-man league, but 12-man leagues definitely, expect him to be going around that 25 mark, and I won't be surprised if he's going at the 25 mark in this draft as well. We got Joe Mixon off the board. Yeah, I would say David Montgomery is my top target. Someone I'm really big on. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and switch this out. Let's see. It's getting selected. And there's Big Patty Mahomes at pick number 22 after A.J. Brown goes off the board. But yeah, David Montgomery, just over 1,000 rushing yards last year, 8 touchdowns, 438 receiving yards, as well as 2 receiving touchdowns, only 1 fumble as well. So I am big on those stats. Just go ahead and compare him to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who played less games, but I like the upside here, David Montgomery. You're going to hear me talking about him all off season as you watch these videos. And if you've already watched any of our videos, you know that both myself and our co-host, Steven, is also huge on David Montgomery. So when we hopefully do a live stream of our own, personal draft for our league, definitely be interesting to see who ends up with that David Montgomery pick as we see a run on tight ends in this current mock draft and Clyde Edwards-Helaire off the board as well. So I will say, if you're able to, the 2 best teams I believe to stack with in terms of getting multiple players from the same team, I'm going to say Kansas City and Green Bay all day, at least in the early rounds of the draft. I think there's some sneaky opportunities to do so with Tampa Bay players later on. But if you compare up, even just Kelsey with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if you've got the number 10 pick or the number 12 pick, and you're picking back to back, and you compare up Kelsey and Hill, that's scary. That is scary for an opponent. If you can get the Aaron Rodgers / Devontae Adams pairing going on, it's dangerous business. Dangerous business, guys. Guys and gals, I shall say. So DK Metcalf off the board at selection number 26. I am huge on DK Metcalf this year. I'm, I think this dude had a monster year last year. Monster year. I mean, a little bit of, definitely going to be some targets going to Tyler Lockett as well. But I'm telling you, if DK slips and at a certain position, I think he's as valuable as any receiver is in this draft. So let's go ahead. Chris Godwin going at pick 28, and right before that, we've got Keenan Allen off the board. So, like I said, my main target here is going to be David Montgomery, and still, a couple good players on the board, but in my opinion, this is the most valuable player on the board. If I was going to go receiver, it would be Terry McLaurin here. No knock on Allen Robinson, someone who I also really like, but hey, Washington football team, I would like to actually select some players. I think Fitzpatrick in these later rounds, sneaky value this year. Very sneaky. So at this point, I am picking in 2 turns, and I may go ahead and solidify that receiver position as the running backs left. I think there are some good value here. J.K. Dobbins, Miles Sanders, Chris Carson, as we see McLaurin off the board, even reaching for a guy like Josh Jacobs. But I do feel like in a 10-man league, going ahead and snagging up a more elite wide receiver is definitely a good idea. But we will see who's available. We may even go quarterback. Sometimes it is best just to go with the talent on the board. And I've kind of talked about this before, kind of strategically picking a QB or picking a tight end at certain points and kind of letting that run begin kind of gives you a chance to get some better position players a little bit later on. So this is a tough decision, but I am going to go ahead and snag a QB. We got our tight end, we got our QB, we have two great running backs, and now we don't need to think about any of those positions moving forward. The running back position, as well as the receiver position, I do think you should draft heavy. So I don't want to say necessarily shouldn't think about the running back position. I think it should always be on your mind. But from here on out, we can pick upside at the running back position and at the receiver position, and we can pick a lot of players. So CeeDee Lamb goes off the board, and I'm kind of hoping that one of these RB1s falls to us. We see Chris Carson off the board, someone who I just added to my queue. I think if Chris Carson can stay healthy, he is going to have a great year in that Seattle offense. But I will say one of my sleepers of this year, Rashad Penny, I think Seattle wants him involved. And somebody can get very, very late in drafts right now. So keep an eye on him. I think he's going to be someone who, unfortunately, if we see Chris Carson have any injuries this year, Rashad Penny is someone who's going to get a lot of involvement in that backfield. So we see J.K. Dobbins off the board, Mike Evans off the board in round 4. I would love for a Robert Woods or got a receiver off the board. Mari Cooper's off the board. So, yeah, any of these top guys right here. DJ Moore is a great target. Kind of that solidified #1 receiver in Carolina. As much as I like Robbie Anderson just a few rounds later, great value there. Let's see, Travis Etienne off the board, or Jacksonville. I would love to see in the comments down below who you guys are picking from that Jacksonville backfield. Do you like kind of taking a risk on a James Robinson and kind of getting him a little bit later rounds? Or do you think that Etienne's going to be the guy there? Like many do believe, and like their head coach may very well believe as well, which might be the most important aspect. Let me know in the comments down below if James Robinson won football championship or fantasy football championships for people last year, and he got people to the championship game last year. So we know the talent's there. We just don't know how it's going to be utilized, right? So kind of like the Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake situation, which if you watched any of my mock drafts in the past, those are two guys I'm taking because one of them's got to run the football, right? And they both had great years last year. So just kind of shoring up. Oh, this is just receivers. Let's see. Got a little bit of run on running backs here. Miles Sanders and DeAndre Swift are off the board. We have got Robert Woods from the LA Rams, kind of your sure #1 receiver off the board. So let's say I didn't take Josh Allen with that last selection, right? I would definitely have probably gone receiver, and I would have another receiver. So as we see Henderson and Jones off the board. So keep in mind too, when you are doing mock drafts, it's important to take note of what you could have done, right? If I come out of this draft and I'm not very happy at the receiver position, well, at least I know that instead of picking that sure #1 QB, that I could have had a sure #1 receiver, right? So, and maybe there will be quarterbacks later on who I'm like, oh, I still really like the value there, like a Ryan Tannehill, Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? Even a Joe Burrow. There's a lot of guys late, right? So just keep notes on what could have been, because it's important in terms of your strategy process as well. So we see Kyle Pitts off the board, the big tight end on the Atlanta Falcons, and got Adam Thielen off the board, Julio Jones off the board. So receivers are drawing relatively thin, but I will tell you right now, I like DJ Moore a whole lot, and I also like Tyler Lockett, even with DK Metcalf in that room. I also like Josh Jacobs here. I really do. I just don't understand how you can rank a player 44 but project him to have 1,200 rushing yards and 11 rushing touchdowns, right? I mean, it just and he just got drafted, didn't he? I was like reading those stats. I'm like, oh, well, screw it. I'm just gonna pick Josh Jacobs. But you already know we are getting a number one receiver in DJ Moore, and we are going to pray that Tyler Lockett slips here, because that would be a dirty start to this roster. And I can tell you right now, if he does not slip, and he may not due to this auto drafter, who I even gave a shout out to earlier, um, if he does not, oh, he did slide. But I can tell you that Mike Davis would probably be my next selection just because of the value and uh, the assumption, the pretty strong assumption that he will be that number one back in that backfield. But let's just go ahead and shore up this roster, right? Now we've got two stud receivers, two stud running backs, a stud QB, and a stud tight end. So that's great. That's dandy. But at this point in your draft, you should still not be happy, right? We talked about this in our joint draft video I did with Steven. These are the rounds that make or break you. And I've mentioned that in some of the drafts that I've done already, solo as well. These are the rounds that are going to make or break your fantasy squad. So at this point, there goes Mark Andrews off the board. You should just be adding everyone to your queue who you think presents upside, right? And great value. And there's a lot of debate. There's a lot of resources out there, like this channel, for you to kind of help decide, who you're going to pick, right? And who you want on that queue and who you consider to have good value and to have that upside ability as well. So I am just taking a second here. Man, DJ Chark's going to have a good year. I really believe so. Definitely underrated receiver. I'll go ahead and show you guys here. We've got a couple QBs after my selection of Tyler Lockett. We've got Kyler Murray as well as Dak Prescott. Tight end Mark Andrews off the board. And then we're just going to be seeing, outside of QB and tight end, a run at the skill positions. Yep. So let's kind of hone in here. I may be reaching for a running back or two. Man, Jerry Jeudy. I'm telling you, if you have not looked into that situation in Denver, which we should have a video coming out on relatively soon. Depends on, it might already be out by the time I post this. It may not be, but I think Jerry Jeudy he's going to have a good year, man. I think he is going to get more targets this year than Sutton. I really do. No knock to Cortland Sutton or anything, but I think Jerry Jeudy's going to have a breakout year, man. And that's another thing I talk about a lot on this channel, right, is just trusting your gut. When it comes to fantasy, right, let's just be honest. You can study for hours and hours and you can evaluate from every angle, but sometimes your guess is as good as mine, right? So I guess the point being is if and when you have those gut feelings, sometimes you should just freaking follow them, right? Let's kind of go back to these draft results. I was kind of trying to see how long A-Rod would stick around. I think Aaron Rodgers has a very difficult schedule this year. I would, look in to the Green Bay Packers schedule this year and help that make, let that help make the decision if you want to draft him. But outside of that, I still think he's going to have a great year. And him going in round 7 after an MVP year is a little bit of a steal. So, seen a big run on some of those tight ends. I think Tyler Higbee is going to have a good year too, man. I really, really do. I think Jamar Chase is a very good value in round 7 as well. So I'm going to scoop my face down here, and I'm going to be targeting 2 running backs, with these next two selections. I know I want opinions on this. I want opinions on James Robinson. I truly do. I want to see what people are thinking about that situation. And I totally understand the argument for Travis Etienne as well. And I just want to get more, the feedback on that. And I'm going to go ahead and pick him here. Even if, let's just say, I mean, these projections are never right in any way, shape, or form, but even if he just had 926 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns, uh, in round 7, that's a very good value. We see LA Rams being the first selection of round 8, probably as good of a defense as you're going to get this year. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to snag up Ronald Jones the second over Leonard Fournette. Steven and I did a NFC South preview episode of our the Catch podcast, and we kind of had that debate. And for whatever reason, my gut feeling is telling me Ronald Jones. And so fantasy wise, and I guess I should explain that my gut is just that's who I think we saw see the bulk of the carries in the regular season last year, and I just have a weird feeling it's going to be Ronald Jones again this year. But once again, your guess is as good as mine. It could be Leonard Fournette, and I think they're both capable running backs, and I think they're both going to be utilized. So a little bit of a risk there. But like I said, we're going for upside. What if it is what if it is Ronald Jones? And yeah, what if it is James Robinson in the Jacksonville backfield, right? What if those are your number one guys? Then these are two really good values on top of two sure number one running backs. So far, let's go ahead and just pull up the team, right? We got Josh Allen, freaking fantastic QB, no debate, right? Two number one, well, Tyler Lockett is I guess, number 2 receiver who ends up putting up number 1 receiver numbers, kind of like the situation of the LA Rams between Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. Kind of like the situation you're going to see in Tennessee between A.J. Brown and Julio Jones this year. So either way, I know Tyler Lockett might not technically be a number 1 receiver, but you definitely understand the trust between him and Russell Wilson. And I like both these receivers and the value of where we got them. Even if one is not necessarily a number 1 receiver, he's going to put up great stats this year. So other than that, we've got 2 number 1 running backs. In my opinion, maybe some people might think I reached a little bit for Aaron Jones, but I'm quite happy with that selection. And then we've got the best tight end in the frickin' league. No debate about it, in my opinion. And then we've got 2 great upside running backs. So I'm happy with this team so far. Go ahead and show you guys what's been going on. Maybe a little bit unrealistic here with this run on defenses. These might be auto picks. Looks like some of them are. But in some leagues, after that first defense goes, there's that little bit of a scare factor that you see with like the quarterback position as well as the tight end position. So, yeah, maybe not all these defenses will go here, but hey, a mock draft is a good tool to help you get as much of a realistic picture as possible. But keep in mind, in some of these rounds, you may realistically see more skilled players as opposed to defenses. But I will say, LA Rams, Washington football team, Pittsburgh defense, Baltimore defense, those are probably your best 4 defenses you're going to see this year. You got San Francisco going after. And you guys probably already heard me say this. If you have watched any of our like drafts, or mock drafts before, speaking of like, go ahead and smash that like button if you haven't already, and if this is enjoyable and or useful to you in any ways, and go ahead and subscribe while you're at it, guys. But I think the Miami Dolphins defense just being criminally underrated this year in terms of fantasy. Let's go to compare. Last year, Tampa Bay, 119 points. Indianapolis Colts, baby, 145 points. They're also, they're a little bit not as far down as Miami, but they're freaking good value. And then Miami all the way down here, 143 points last year. So I think New England is going to, after all the getting back all those players back from COVID, including Dante Hightower, I think they're going to have a much better year defensively. So I'm not even counting that. But some of these teams in front of them, who I still think are good defenses, I'm telling you, man, Miami's going to have a baller year this year, even with some offseason changes. So quote me on that. If I'm wrong, let me know. If you think I'm wrong right now, yell at me. I want you to yell at me in the comments below about how Stupid I am. All right, so let's see. We're seeing, man, I'm getting kind of lucky. You're getting a big run on kickers. Uh, may have got a little lucky with some of these coming selections. May have not realistically been there. So I'm just going to go ahead and check the running back position really quickly. See if there's anyone I'm absolutely crazy about because we're probably not going to be able to draft more than one other running back. So I am going to take Damian Harris. And I'm going to kind of hope Kenyon Drake kind of slips out of this round because I'm probably going to go ahead and take Chase Claypool here, just with that receiving touchdown upside. A lot of targets in that Pittsburgh Steelers offense, including our boy Juju right here. I do love, and well, one quick note: Pittsburgh having a very easy schedule, in terms of defenses they're going to face this year. But I do love the value of Robbie Anderson here, someone I think, especially in PPR leagues, is going to have a very good year. Maybe not as great in standard leagues, but since we have my boy DJ Moore on the roster already, I don't want to double up with Carolina Panthers players. So going ahead, and I am selecting Chase Claypool. So let's see if I can move my face around and our Q down a little bit. And yeah, go ahead and show off this team a bit. I think it's going good in my opinion. But the guys that I am now heavily targeting, I actually like the idea of pairing a Ryan Tannehill behind a Josh Allen. I kind of wish we knew a little bit more about the quarterback situation in Houston because I think Brandon Cooks holds a lot of good value here. I'm going to go ahead and add Michael Carter to the queue. Kenyon Drake being my main target on top of Jerry Jeudy. Those are the two guys I'm heavily targeting. But I'm going to tell you that in a 10-man league, if you can flex a tight end, you should be drafting two tight ends, right? Because you can get a lot of value, especially if you start to see the tight end position kind of get abandoned after that big run on tight ends. I mean, we've got Mike Gesicki and Robert Tonyan on the board. Those are two guys who may put up numbers close to receiver numbers this year. So if you've watched any videos I've done in the past, you know that I'm already big on those two guys. So keep in mind some of these late round tight ends you can get as well. There's Carson Wentz available. Shout out to our co-host Steven, a longtime diehard Indianapolis Colts fan. We all feel for you. Just want to have a moment of silence for you. As we see Ryan Tannehill and coincidentally the Indianapolis Colts defense off the board. But on a serious note, getting that Indy defense in round 10 is a steal. They put up more points than the Miami Dolphins defense did last year, the team I've been raving about. So I think they are great. If you're going to target a defense, I think Indy is as good of a team as you can target. As we see, Jerry Jeudy off the board, someone who I think is going to have a great year. I mean, even look at the projected points. Over 1,000 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns, and a player can get in round 11. I mean, come on, man. If you're playing PPR, Jerry Jeudy, I think as the season draws closer, I know I've been saying this about a lot of players, but I think he is definitely a player who is going to rise and rise on draft boards as we get closer to week 1 of the NFL season. So, Will Fuller off the board, someone who I do think is of good value, kind of like a Michael Thomas, I think is of good value where you can draft them, but you just got to be a little skeptical and you got to know what risk you're taking. So, I am going up next after Alex, who has selected A.J. Dillon, and I'm going to go ahead and draft Mr. Kenyon Drake. I do like the value of James Conner here, but I'm going with the double tight end, baby. I'm taking Robert Tonyan, the touchdown machine, tied Travis Kelce, the other tight end on this roster, for the most touchdowns by a tight end in the league last year. That is a great value in my personal opinion in round 12, especially after we have gained the knowledge that Aaron Rodgers will be playing for the Green Bay Packers this year. So when you look at Kelsey's numbers from last year, far more receiving yards at over 1,411 scores. You pull up Tonyan, 500 receiving yards. Kelsey had 1,000 more receiving yards. He is the man in Kansas City, right? I mean, we all know he's a baller, right? But that 11 touchdown mark, which I mean, there's going to be some regression here naturally, right? But even if you get him at 650 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns, those are quite good numbers from a tight end. So let's go ahead and see who is going. AB, someone. Yeah, I like all the value here in round 12. I actually like the value of James Conner a whole lot. I think he is going to be involved in that Arizona Cardinals offense. So you see AB going. I mean, they've even got AB projected at 1,000 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. I think there's just a lot of uncertainty there, right? But Tampa Bay is going to be explosive this year. So I think they're going to be better than they were last year. And I don't think they're going to have what we saw at the beginning of last year where they were kind of still figuring things out. It wasn't really an off season at all. Wasn't really time for those guys to figure it out. And I think obviously they did figure it out last year. And man, they're going to be some bad, bad men this year, let me tell you. So we have got a couple players here that I like. I do want to go ahead and check. Yeah, so Tom Brady is not available, as we were just talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this is kind of where you got to make a decision. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a full draft where typically if you have watched some of my mock drafts, I may forfeit a kicker or a defense just to get more skill players. And in my personal league, I do that very often. But I'm going to go ahead and start conducting these drafts where I do just select a defense and a kicker because I know there's a lot of people out there who want to see it done in that traditional sense, and that is something that I want to help aid in. So my main target here is Mike Williams. If you've watched any videos I've done, you'll know that I'm huge on Mike Williams. If I was going to forfeit a kicker or defense, I would be heavily targeting Mike Gesicki, and then who just got selected, and Mike Williams. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Williams and shore up the skill position player, but if I wasn't going to, the top target there would be that Miami defense. But we're going to go ahead and select the value of another receiver on this squad, as we have not picked one since Chase Claypool. And we're going to hope that the Miami defense falls to us. If they do not, then I would be perfectly happy. Oh, it's my turn to draft. Never mind. I'm way off of it. I don't even know what's going on. We are going to be able to select the Miami defense. So let's do it, baby. And at this point, you could pick any kicker in the world, and you would probably be just as fine as picking any other kicker. So we do see that Jason Sanders of the Miami Dolphins had the most points out of any kicker available. So sure, let's make him our top target. I also think, wow, Rodrigo Blankenship's available. Yeah, I mean, this is why you just should not panic on a kicker. I mean, and a lot of these kickers, where they're being ranked, they came up off the waiver wire last year. They weren't even drafted. So just keep that in mind. Don't panic about a kicker. These last couple rounds, I'll go ahead and leave it up. There's probably some good information here. I like the value of Gronk in round 13. Somebody went a little bit before Mike Williams' selection. And Mike Gesicki in round 13. Like I know this is a 10-man league, and I've mainly been conducting 12-man drafts, but Gesicki's going to have a good year, man. Yeah, that's a good value. So we also saw Fitzpatrick selected in round 13 too. So Adam Trotman, my co-host Steven's sleeper of the year, someone who Steven is huge on. He really likes the big body of Adam Trotman. So do your research. He may, very well end up being a very serviceable tight end in that New Orleans offense. But speaking of a late round tight end, which I will link my late round tight end video below as well, at least on the end screen. But Jared Cook, a former New Orleans Saint, who is now on that Justin Herbert squad, LA Chargers. That's a great late round target that I think more people need to be talking about. I mean, I know people are going to be scared because of his age, but start thinking in these late rounds. I mean, there are a lot of good players still. I mean, Devin Singletary, who knows? The Bills' offense is going to be really freaking good. He might be their number one running back. He might be getting as many touches as Zach Moss. We really don't know. Naheem Hines, someone who may actually benefit from the recent injuries to that Colts team, as they may just have to dump off the ball a whole lot. So if you're playing PPR, Naheem Hines is a pretty good selection here. And then we've got still a lot of good players in Marvin Jones. We've got Chenault Jr. We've got one of the best handcuffs in the league in Alexander Mattinson. If Devontae Parker is healthy next year and can stay healthy, he's going to be a big part of kind of that security blanket for Tua, although there are going to be a lot of targets in that Miami offense. But Corey Davis very well may be your number one receiver on the New York Jets football team behind our boy Zach Wilson. And I mean, he's even projected to have over 1,200 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. And the list just kind of goes, I mean, it starts to veer off a little bit. But, you know, if Tariq Cohen is healthy, great PPR back. If J.D. McKissick returns to what we see him do last year, even with the emergence of Antonio Gibson, another great PPR back. Hunter frickin' Henry might be the biggest sleeper. Oh, man. I want to draft him just because I'm getting excited talking about him. In the episode or annual The Catch podcast that we did last night, which may be differing from when I post this video, Steven talks about Hunter Henry quite a bit. And yeah, I do think he is going to have a good year, with the New England Patriots. So Hunter Henry being available here in 10-man leagues, quite the steal. So we did go ahead and shore up our final position with Rodrigo Blankenship. Look at those glasses. Total baller. So we ended up in this draft with the Josh Allen at our quarterback position. At the receiver position, we have got Carolina's number 1, DJ Moore. Tyler Lockett, Seattle's number 1/number 2. A couple ways to look at it. Receiver, we have got Chase Claypool, kind of that emergence in his rookie year last year. I think it's a great value. And then we've got Mike Williams, the number 2 in that LA Chargers team, under the helms of Justin Herbert in his second year. So I'm very excited about the upside there. The running back position, we've got Aaron Jones, we have got David Montgomery. So in my opinion, these are 2 great number 1 backs. And then we've got some great upside ability with Ronald Jones the second, James Robinson as well, Damian Harris, who should look to be the number 1 running back in the New England offense. Then we've got Kenyon Drake, someone who I'm personally high on with the value of where you can get him. Someone who still had a very good year with the Cardinals last year, and even with Josh Jacobs in that backfield, I think it's a great handcuff situation. I think there's a lot of upside. And then look at these tight ends, baby. Travis Kelce and Robert Tonyan. You already heard me talk about them. 22 touchdowns between the 2 of them last year. Great value. And then when you look at this kicker, Rodrigo Blankenship, in all seriousness, one of the best kickers in the league, and I think he's going to continue to be a great staple of the Indianapolis Colts since they can't seem to keep anyone important healthy. And then we've got the Miami defense, someone who I'm personally very high on, who the projections are not high on, but I'll take the chance because I'll stream a defense against the Lions or something if I have to. So that is my draft for you. If this was helpful, which I sure hope it was, please let me know in the comments down below. How can I improve? What can I do that is more helpful for you guys? What number of teams would you like to see these mock drafts? 8, 10, 20, 14, I don't care. I will do it. I will do it to the best of my ability. I played in 20-man leagues. I played in 14-man leagues. I am all for it. PPR, half PPR, standard scoring. Yahoo primarily has it set up to where you are in a PPR draft, but I am happy to use other formats. Questions, thoughts, concerns, we are here for you guys. We want to see you succeed in your fantasy league. Let us know down below how we can do so. Hit that smash button on the smash button. Yeah, whoa, that sounds cool. Hit the like button on the way out. Hit the subscribe button on the way out. We thank you so very much for listening and or watching. Remember, you saw it here on The Catch.